So today is my day off, and I made another video about how junior devs can't code. And I called out the fact that software development engineers that are newer to the industry are not being given the opportunity to suffer enough in order to learn the lessons that suffering gives. So yes, I'm going to be very Buddhist about this today. The fact is that journey, that suffering, the pain point that you're trying to get away from, when you use AI, well, that's what the job is, man. Like if you are actively trying to go out of your way to use AI to make yourself more productive, that is one thing. But if you're actively going out of your way to use AI because you're lazy and you don't want to learn and you don't care and you just want to copy and paste, well, then you're the problem. And to be honest, the the world agrees with me. It's one of those things where it's becoming. How can I? I'm just gonna flat out just link to it again, and I'm going to link to the actual thing on Slashdot, uh, because this is important and you should see it. Um, New juniors can actually code. Okay, the problem here is that they actively go through and are lazy. Okay. So before I even read this, before I even read it, I knew it was going on. And to summarize it, you're gonna get the link because it's gonna be in the page when I post this. Uh, People who are using AI are letting the AI do the work, so they become a manager of the AI instead of actually doing the work themselves as an individual contributor, which means their focus has shifted to the point where they are no longer actually working as an individual contributor, which means that they don't know what they're working on. They're literally just transparently copying and pasting. And then what happens is they inevitably get to a file size that the AI cannot handle. And then they become exposed as the imposter that they are. And this is something that happens to a lot of juniors because it's unfortunate, but we used to have some standards of who could be a junior, and now we don't. We have people who believe that they can be a junior simply because they feel like it. They're not willing to put the work in, they're not willing to learn, and they're definitely not willing to do the math. But they think that they can type into an AI and become a software development engineer overnight so they can go from flipping burgers to getting that bag. And the reason you get that bag is because you've suffered enough to learn the actual things needed to do the job. The reason you get that bag is because you know better from hard experience. The reason you get that bag is because you've suffered along the journey and you've actually gone out of your way to make sure that that suffering and that experience stays with you so that you can learn the lessons from it. And look, I get it. Not everybody wants to suffer. You're going to anyway because that's what life is. Life is suffering. Okay. If you follow Buddhism, you just have to accept that. If you don't follow Buddhism, well, that's just like your opinion, man. And I totally get that. But the issue here is that new developers can't code because they're not learning. Okay. They come in, they say, yeah, I can do it. They hide the fact that they don't know. They go to an AI, they have the AI do the work for them. They then lie to their boss and say, I did this, instead of saying, I had an AI do this and I don't understand what it is, but it says it's done. Which, by the way, is exactly the same thing your boss could have done, but they outsourced and delegated it to you because they wanted you to do the work at a higher quality bar, which you're not going to be able to do. What's going to happen in all of these cases is every single imposter who is pretending to be a software development engineer will start out with LLMs. They'll have a little bit of success, They'll start to feel like they can do it themselves. They'll use LLMs, and then finally they'll get to a point where their context breaks, which is a fancy way of saying the AI context window will be smaller than the project's requirements. At that point, their project will start to break down, and they will be found by their boss as the imposters they are. And so, if you go back through this whole thing, like this, I feel this in my soul. You have no idea how much I feel this in my soul because I've been that guy, okay? I've been the guy that 6 years later got asked. And it was like, yeah, by the way, it took me a couple of years, but I figured it out. Here's the answer. Versus this, which is effectively somebody's going to be posting a hallucination. People are going to consider it to be a real question, and you're going to actually have people trying to answer your question when it's a bad question because it's from AI. Or worse, it could be a real legitimate human question answered wrongly multiple times by AI. That's what we are getting into now. And so the issue here is the reason that Stack Overflow is dying is because of that. But this chart still really makes a lot of sense though. Because yeah, you can ask somebody else to do the work for you, and that's fast. Or you can do the work yourself and you can gain the knowledge. What software development engineers that are trying to use AI to do the work are forgetting is that they were delegated to do the work themselves. Okay. How you get that work done may not matter to your boss as long as it's high enough quality. But if you do it this way, it won't be high enough quality and you won't get the knowledge gain because your boss isn't asking you to just get the work done. They want you to understand the process. They want to be able to come back to you later and ask questions. They want that process to be repeatable and something that is sustainable by the business. And that's not going to happen if all you're doing is asking ChatGPT for something and then you're just copying and pasting. Sure, you can read it and learn a little bit, but you're not going to learn it as if you actually typed it all out yourself. You're not going to learn it the same way. Okay? Trust me on this. I've done test projects where I've done them myself and as a 25-year veteran, and I've done test projects where I go, okay, cool. I'm just going to assume I know nothing and I'm going to have the LLM, I'm going to ask them questions, etc. And what I found are two things. If you just trust the LLM to do everything, you're not going to get the work done, period. You're also going to have a lot of problems with larger contexts and things that have a lot of different dependencies. In fact, you're going to get to a point where you've got, too many files. Maybe all the files concatenated together into one. It's just too big. You're at that point, your project's dead because you have no way to actively go out of your way and get it to work again. Because if you don't have if you don't have the knowledge to do it yourself, and you're dependent on the LLM, and the LLM is confused because it has too much data in its head from the context you're trying to give it, then you're suffering from the same problem that people have. Can't put it all in their head, so they can't give you an answer. Okay? Every single thing I've seen with LLMs has an analog for humans. And in this case, if you were to go ask, let's just say Jill or Joe, okay? Say this was their logo instead of their face. Joe and this person does not exist. Are you going to load anymore? Or do I? Yeah, person does not exist. So if I go in and I say this person does not exist, okay, and I ask this person, I'm using this picture of a person that does not actually exist because this person does not exist is actually just generated people's faces, just random human faces based on AI. Okay. So let's just ask this woman, hey, go do that work. Okay. She goes back to this chart here, and that's her face there, right? And Apologies to the author. And I'm going to inspect. And just because, whatever. Let's just do 20%. All right, all right, all right. Yeah. Height. There you go. Okay, so let's just quickly get this face. Okay, so I'm going to ask Jill, who happens to be our in this hypothetical scenario, happens to be our best engineer. Okay, I'm going to ask her to do it. That's fast. That's good for me as a delegator because I can make sure that I can just do that task asynchronously. AKA, being a delegator means you're requesting a task be executed asynchronously. And then you're managing that task. So you've come from an IC who's been told to do the work, becoming a delegator. You've given yourself a promotion. Your boss doesn't want that. They don't want you to be the delegator. They want you to be the person that has the information immediately and doesn't have to ask somebody else. Okay. Now, Stack Overflow has been getting a really well, it's been dying. Let's be blunt about that. It's dying. In fact, it's basically dead at this point. Dead internet theory says that it's over at least. It actually died a couple months ago, I guess. And so the end result is that, if you go through and you actually read a book, or you actually put the work in to actually figure it out, you're going to have that experience. You're going to have, uh, you're not gonna be in a situation where, I'm thinking I'm trying to find a good generic book here, and you know what? Let's just do that. Copy. There. So here's the deal. This is the same exact chart. You can either ask somebody else to do it for you, or you can put in the work and actually read the damn book. At the end of the day, if you're using an LLM, what you're really doing is delegating it to another individual. Now, I recognize that AI are not people. In fact, the fact that I'm even going this route kind of scares me a bit because I'm acknowledging that people are trying to replace humans with artificial intelligence for the same task. But we live in a capitalist society. What that means is that our future is going to be Star Wars, not Star Trek. We won't have the Jedi. We won't have all those things that we've fallen in love with, or at least not all of them. But we will have people who want to own entire planets. We will have people who have suddenly decided that because they have the military might to do so and the economic resources to do so, that they are now in charge of this solar system or that solar system or whatever. That will end up being reality. We're just waiting for that to happen at this point. Uh, and so if you were to go through and you were to go in and you were to say, hey, my boss gave me this task. I'm going to go ask the book and see what I should do on this so I can do the task correctly. Perfect. Not only are you giving yourself another copy of what's already in the book, but you now have a basis for understanding. Okay, you have knowledge, you have memory, and yeah, maybe it wasn't a good book to read. Maybe it wasn't a pleasant experience to have to go through all night and look up something, right? but that's what learning is. The reason that schools have you do homework, the reason that schools force you to do things they know you don't want to do, isn't because they think, oh, well, we're going to make them suffer because we enjoy it. No, that's not how that works. Okay. Schools are there to teach you. But unfortunately, education is fickle. Your brain will forget it if it doesn't think it's important. And so you have to attach it to the memory of pain for your brain to remember it. For most people, not everybody thinks this way, not everybody acts this way, not everybody has this brain chemistry. But the reason they add trauma to education is to make you remember it. That's right. They intentionally traumatize you with your education because that way you'll remember your education. And so if I go and I ask our best, our best engineer, in this case, a picture of a random woman that does not actually exist because it was generated by AI randomly, uh, then I asked Jill, hey, go do that thing, please. She's like, yep, I was about to do that anyway because it was on my list. Let's get that done. Okay, fine. Now Jill has done that work. She's got that book in her head now. And where am I? Well, I don't have that book in my head because I delegated the task instead of doing it. Do you understand the difference now? Because as an engineer, it's your job to execute the task. It's your job to evaluate the code and write it. It is not your job to ask other people to do your work for you, unless you're a lead. In that case, then, well, yeah, you're a lead. So part of your job is to take the workload that your boss is giving you and split up among the team. But if you're an IC, this is context that you just don't have and you don't want. In fact, I've known a lot of great, highly technical individuals who were senior level or even C level people who just said, F it, I don't care. I want to be an IC. I want to be in my little box. I want to go to Jira and I want to work on my task list all day. And then when I'm done, I go on to the next task. And that is my life. That is what I prefer. And you know what? That's perfectly fine. Those people, they make good ICs. And people who use AI, they don't. They become delegators. And unfortunately, as a software engineer, if you are in the trenches writing code, you are not a delegator. Okay. Even as a lead, you cannot be successful by only delegating. If you're a lead and you're part of a team, part of your job is to do, at least 20, 30, 50%, whatever code yourself. I actually found myself doing around 70% code because I was writing code with the team a lot and doing managerial and training and everything else on top of that. But when you really get down to it, the reason that these graphs look so alike is that they're the same exact thing. Okay. You have the entity being asked questions and then the reservoir of knowledge. Okay. And so the issue here is that AI has become something that you can delegate to. It used to be just be a human or an animal in some cases. If you had a really well trained animal, you could delegate to it. In fact, seeing dogs, mules, horses, etc. These are all common things that get work done on farms. And like in the city, you've got the blind dogs and things to help people out. They're effectively the city version of a working farm animal. And so the end result is that there's so many parallels here. And what it ultimately comes down to is the people that shove that knowledge in their head are going to be the most valuable. I mean, that's why you're watching this YouTube video, right? I mean, I'm a 25-year veteran of the software industry, and I did that without AI. And I'm going to continue doing it without AI because what I found is that if I start using AI, quite frankly, my skills go out the window. And I hate that. So I refuse to use AI if I don't have to because I want that mental context. I want that knowledge in my head. I want those skills available. If I need to just, if I'm getting asked a question on a Zoom call or whatever, it has to stay in my head. I can't dump it out of my head and then say, oh, look, I'm just going to have the AI do it. That's laziness. And if you are being that lazy, if you are using AI as a junior engineer, stop! Ask it questions. Learn the basics. Okay? Learn the things you have to Google and then go Google them or perplexity them or whatever. I don't care. Just learn. Become a better engineer. Stop being lazy and letting the computer do the work for you. Because I guarantee you, you will not get the same high quality output. You will not get the same promotions. You will not get the same bag of money at the end of every payday. Yes, it's true. AI can compete with software development engineers who are very junior. I have personally seen junior engineers that have been fired and replaced with AI. And this is not me joking. This is not me shit posting. This is not me trolling you. This is me, a 25 plus year veteran of the industry who has worked in FANG companies, the biggest tech companies in the world, Fortune 50s, etc., and been a actual director level leadership resource at these Fortune 50 companies, who has worked at MS Research, who has turned down Meta again more recently as of a couple of months ago, which is great because they're firing everybody now. I kind of dodged that bullet. I'm really glad I turned them down. But with all my knowledge and experience, it is imperative. It is critical that we do not allow the machines to do our thinking for us. Those of you who have read Dune know what I mean.